I'm Henrik, I'm the CEO of ChromaWay and a co-founder. I have a background as a developer for a long time, but also worked in finance and IT, and actually studied economics. It's a good fit for my interests with blockchain, economics, political science, entrepreneurship, finance, etc. I got into this in 2013. An old colleague of mine, Alex Misrai from Ukraine, he had come up with a way to issue tokens on the Bitcoin blockchain. Basically the first protocol to do that. So he formed a project called the Color Coins project, and he was leading that 2012 to 2014. In 2014 we started ChromaWay, and other people in the Color Coins project started Ethereum, like Vitalik Buterin, and other people started other companies. So it basically broke down. ChromaWay started to work with LHV Bank in Estonia to do payments, like peer-to-peer payments using blockchain technology, but the bank would have issued euros, so bank-backed currency. Another project is with Funderbeam. They have an investment platform that allows your ownership in a company to be represented on the blockchain. So Funderbeam can't move your assets, you're in control over them. So you can trust this little company with your assets. Yeah, we discovered quite soon that sort of Bitcoin wasn't that interesting to enterprises, to banks, etc. So we started to think about how we could do enterprise blockchain, private blockchains, basically an idea that appeared at that time. So now we've been working on private blockchain technology for some time, and now we're actually ready to release it. We're doing a combination between a relational database and a blockchain. We call it a consortium database. And the product is called Postchain. It's finished in an alpha version now that we are distributing to various partners, etc., and trying out ourselves in various projects. So we've been doing a lot of projects around this technology as well. One of them being the project with the Swedish land registry, SBAB, Landshypotek Telia company, and now we are onboarded every one of the organizations for real estate brokers and yet another public sector player in this project. And that gave us a lot of attention, so we've been featured a lot in international press and speaking for the World Bank, etc. Gave us leads in other countries. So during autumn we also started a project with KPMG in India, in Andhra Pradesh, to do a secure land registry based on our consortium database. And that led to a contract with Tech Mahindra to sell our technology. And we're doing also a lot of under the radar projects. Some are under NDA, of course, but working in commercial real estate in Thailand and in Australia, and doing some projects on green finance in Stockholm with Stockholm Green Digital Finance, SEB, Earners, Vasakronan, Cicero, and some more players. So how to validate green investments, the environmental claims, putting them on the blockchain so it's transparent for everyone who added what information, etc. We're working with sort of developing countries. We have a project now with ABT Associates and Cadasta, a company, to do a project for United Nations Women. It's basically about how refugees that don't have anything, not even an identity and no belongings, how they can claim various assets. Could be land, like pre-land registry, before you have anything, not even an identity, how to get that into a blockchain solution.
Yeah, a lot of these projects seem to be geared around trust and ownership, some of the promises of blockchain technology.
Yeah.
And so is that part of your sort of wider world view then, that you see a lot of these problems out there and ChromaWay can provide the solutions? And if so, how does the world look in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, it could be an improvement that this technology could bring sort of order into ownership and trust and processes, in particular political processes and government processes. I'm interested in voting, for example. You not just cast your vote, but sort of be able to prove that that the election was fair. For something that would be a great advantage, I would think, for politics. as well as be able to have systems that are less prone to corruption. I think that could be one of the good things with blockchain.
A lot of the applications that you're working on in this space are, they appear to be sort of geared towards encouraging more of a fair society, would you say, or more transparent processes?
I think I mean that's very nice projects if you have the chance to do them. I think we should grab them, the opportunities that are out there. It's not like we said that we're only working with those kind of issues. We can work with commercial things as well, and we do so. But I think it could be a very beneficial technology for society. I mean, I come more sort of fascinated by the marvelous technology and the clever use of incentives in Bitcoin. So that was the eye-opener to me, reading the Bitcoin white paper. It's also elegant and mind-blowingly new, sort of. I've been a developer for a long time, but seldom you see something that's really new. This was sort of one of the few exceptions that you see something that's really an invention. So I came basically from a tech background. Had no idea what this technology is, if it's going to be used for anything. Yeah, so it's like, Alex made it possible to issue tokens. Yeah, that's cool. You can issue shares, but is anyone interested? Will there be a market for this kind of stuff? And so had no idea that it's going to turn off and be the blockchain market as we know now, with a lot of crazy stuff going on in media and crazy projects, and sort of being a super trend, even by World Economic Forum's identified super mega trend. That's my background, so I've become more of a futurist and see opportunities the more I go. So I think I see more and more opportunities where it actually makes sense. Not only the best blockchain cases, but a lot of cases where you can improve on things. So, like a bank, you put the money in the bank, you hope it turns off on your screen, you hope that you can retrieve the money, but you have absolutely no guarantees except it's a brand name and has used to work in that way. So if everything could be mathematically proven and being inspected in real time by yourself or financial inspections or auditing companies, it could be more secure society. So I mean, and if it's theoretically better, then it is better. So there's a lot of opportunities to improve a lot of things with blockchain.
It sort of seems like the larger population, like you said, they put a lot of their trust in these brands, these banks. And do you think it's somewhat difficult to sort of communicate the solutions, the benefits of these solutions, long term, short term?
Yeah, it is, because we do trust a lot of institutions, so it's no real practical issue in your day life, sort of. But
so the problem is really only apparent to a certain group of individuals within society at this stage. Is that?
Yeah, probably. People that are looking for the problems, maybe, but.
And also, obviously, in other countries, it's much more apparent than more developed.
I start to think, so why is there ever a case for having a centralized solution? What would make a centralized solution better than a more decentralized, given that both are as secure? So probably not a single point of failure. So why would anyone do a centralized solution? So that's sort of now. Before blockchain, everything was centralized, so that's sort of a big new perspective on how to design solutions.
Let's touch on some of the more exciting recent developments in the space in general. This kind of ICO madness that's going on, the ERC20 tokens, are they here to stay? Are they going to be... Looks like there's a few other options on the horizon. How do you view the space currently?
Yeah, to be honest, I seldom have the time to follow everything that's happening. So it's a bit, a bit sad you don't have time to follow all the projects that's happening. So there's a lot of people in my company that knows everything that's going on a lot better than I do. But that's something I can't do anything about. I don't have more hours to follow things. So, but it's quite exciting in a way. The ICO market in 2017 and what happened. So you can both be skeptical, but also a little bit positive on it. I changed a little bit, I think, to becoming a little bit more positive on ICOs in general. But, of course, a lot of them are really bad projects, and some are even, obvious scams themselves. Some are just plain stupid, but there might be also some good projects there are. And there's no big difference in a way if rich cryptocurrency investors invest in future technology compared to, say, a group of companies going together and invest in a startup and tell the startup to build the future technology for them. So that's happened otherwise in the blockchain space, for example. There's no big difference in a way. You're still investing into a future project. You have no guarantees, so you just have a vague idea that this is a good team and they'll be able to deliver what we want. So it's not really fair to criticize ICOs in general
I guess
that much as it is. But,
I guess it comes down to the accessibility also, now that everyone can sort of partake.
Yeah, so in a way, democratizing investments in a way. You can see that as an advantage, and being able to do it globally, as long as the products adhere to the Know Your Customer regulations and AML regulations that exist. So of course there are some ICOs that haven't done a lot of legal work, and in particular a lot of investors that haven't done their homework and reading what they actually invest in. A lot of crazily bad deals for companies. That's all it is. But I think it's getting more mature in a way that people are more careful in the legal setups of the ICOs. Take care
in general,
to,
you think it's a positive thing in the long term, perhaps not so much in the short term.
I don't know. It's definitely going to be a crash, and a lot of people are going to lose their money. But yeah, I wouldn't advise a lot of my friends to go into ICOs. But if you're a rich crypto investor and you have a lot of money and you're supposed to be mature enough to evaluate projects, then sort of you have no one else to blame but yourself if it goes wrong, I would say. So you need to do your homework, which is very, very difficult. So then maybe you shouldn't. So depend on your risk aversity.
We first met in late 2015. How do you think the cryptocurrency landscape has changed since then? How has ChromaWay changed since then?
At core, we're still doing the same things. We've always been sort of focused on blockchain technology. We want to be a technology company. So we haven't changed that much. We're growing, of course, and getting more projects and better technology, etc. Staying quite close to what we want to do. The markets has, of course, changed quite a lot. Ethereum actually became something, which I wasn't sure about. So started off as a grand vision, but they actually succeeded in doing something and captured a lot of momentum. So that has changed a lot, I think. Yeah.
Where did you have your doubts initially?
A lot in the technology. Would it even be feasible to implement sort of the white paper? And still have doubts a lot about proof of stake, etc. And that switch. So, and I don't regard it as an extremely secure technology for the programming language, etc. But you can't have everything. It's not perfect. Definitely not. So it has a lot of weaknesses, but. Still impressive that they actually managed to to get it off and get a lot of projects and get momentum around it. So that's probably the biggest change. In terms of enterprise blockchain, I think that a lot of enterprises are a bit tired with looking at new technology. They think that everything is the same and rather have something stable, so they rather go for like R3, doing something in common rather than look at new technologies, because they sort of think it's the most important thing is to get something done. But on the other hand, a new market's opening up sort of for more companies that are actually make cases out of using blockchain. Individual companies that might not be banks, etc., and might not be in consortiums, but sort of in manufacturing, not in supply chain, of course, but in various cases around companies. And it's not at all stopping, it's expanding, I think, the general use of blockchain for various applications. And of course, ICOs has changed quite a lot, giving a lot of funding to more experimental projects and getting a lot of,
Yeah, I recently saw an ICO record breaker raised, was it $18 million in 1 minute 34 seconds or something? And for me it was the question was, where is all this ether coming from in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people made a lot of money on Ethereum, so I kind of regret on the evening of the last day of the pre-sale, I was too lazy to put in that Bitcoin to buy on the pre-sale, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not.
But then I'm not motivated to make my company work or something. But yeah.
What are some real world applications of Postchain? So let's put aside the technology for a second and start to think about how this will be applied and how it will help people in society.
I mean, it's a general blockchain technology, so it can be used for 90% of the cases where you can use blockchain. So you can just pick a vertical. It can be used for supply chain, yes. It can be used for exchanges, yes. It can be used for post-trade, yes. It can be used for a lot of cases because it's generic blockchain technology. Okay. So that's the simple answer how it's. But I would say it has its strength. For example, when you want to integrate with existing infrastructure, maybe when you want to make sure that you have something that will be able to up and run in 20 years from now, sort of.
So it's a side chain that runs on.
Yeah, it could be configured as a side chain, but it's more. We design it as a private blockchain, so we have a voting scheme. You have a different consortium running the network. And every transaction, if you want to write something to the database, you send it to Postchain. Postchain contacts the other nodes in the system and send out the same transaction. And then there is a voting scheme, and all the nodes vote, should we accept this transaction? And you accept the transaction when you have a majority. So it's a formula to how to determine the majority. So it's a Byzantine fault-tolerant algorithm. And so another question, how do you validate a transaction? Yeah, it needs to conform to the rules. It needs to be signed by the proper actors. And then you can check the transaction against the current state in the database. So you take an example, I want to send money to Rich. So in the relational database, you have a table for accounts. And I'll just check the Henrik row in accounts table. Henrik has 990 crowns, and he's trying to send 1,000 to Rich. Can't do that because he doesn't have enough money. So then your code validates that and throws an error. And throwing an error will mean a vote against accepting the transaction. And since everyone has the same replicated database and the same information, they will all look in the accounts table and see the same information. So it would be a vote against accepting this transaction. So normally everyone should vote in the same way to validate the transaction. But the point is that you can do validation logic not necessarily by coding something in Solidity or in Go or in Java or something. You can just do it directly in the database language in the stored procedure, or even use the declarative features of relational databases. They're designed to preserve information, make sure that nothing incorrect gets added to the database. You can have connections between tables that make sure that you cannot have a duplicate row, you cannot have the wrong information in fields, etc. So you can use all that feature set to validate transactions. So it makes it much easier programming environment than I would argue a lot of other blockchains. You don't need to learn something new, you have a much more powerful and yet easy to use paradigm for implementing solutions. So that's turning it into like a technical or use case discussion how to use Postchain, but that's how it works, and you can basically implement a lot of blockchain solutions.
The wider society, for example, you saw a problem in a way that the voting mechanism, or how the voting mechanism could add value in these transactions, but most people won't see this as an issue.
No.
However, it's very, very likely that this technology will be baked into future transactional systems that they will interface with. So just in the interest of trying to communicate some of the value propositions to the man in the street, if you like, how would they sort of be able to understand what's being done here with Postchain?
Yeah, I mean, for example, you can make it a more resilient network. You don't have to have a central server that can go down. You cannot just bomb a small city in Sweden and take out the land registry and then bomb the backup site, and an intruder will have destroyed all the record keeping of who owns what in the country.
So it comes back to decentralization.
Yeah, so that could be much more decentralized. And the current technology is called distributed databases. They become less secure the more nodes you add, because it's enough to hack into one of the nodes to change information that will immediately propagate to all the other nodes. With this technology, it becomes more secure because you need to take over half of the nodes at least in order to change information. So add more resilience to a lot of applications, both in public sector and private sector. And it's also you don't necessarily have to use APIs anymore and connect to different silos in organization. You can just share the databases directly. So yeah, the banks could be inspected in real time by the financial authorities. The financial authorities would run a copy of their database and we immediately see sort of when something is going wrong and the risk starts to get too high. They can do their own validation in real time and call them. Do we need auditing every year? Why once per year? Maybe you can do it in real time again. Have your auditing company see, oh shit, you're overdrafting too much, so you need to take control of your finances. You get a call from your lawyer directly instead of waiting at the end of the year. So it could change, a lot of things. Basically the promise of blockchain, but yeah.
More robust, more secure.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to touch on the green assets wallet? Validating green investments.
Yeah.
Tell us how it works and how it might impact society.
Yeah, we're still in the design phase. We have started. We'll work with it. I think the delivery is in November or something. We'll have something finished to show off. But it's the issue that currently everyone has their own way to validate investment, and basically if an investor wants to see the environmental claims, they need to go to different home pages and download PDF reports, and it's a kind of a manual and unstructured process. So we want to take this into blockchain, so you can have the validation company can upload material to the blockchain, and you can have someone that is doing a second opinion on the blockchain in the same way as you can have like a process, how things are moving or being analyzed. You can also interface with IoT devices. For example, you have maybe energy meters. You can put in the information on the blockchain, and you can have some company that is specialized on analyzing that, and they can provide their opinion about this data. So basically having restructure the process to make sure that it's accessible for everyone and it's transparent. You cannot change history. You see exactly who did what, when. And so there's a lot of opportunities to look at how we can improve process and improve qualities. So it's an ongoing work. So just the start, some of it, yeah. But it's quite exciting. I think it's just the first start, just having prototypes with mainly Swedish companies, but you can definitely look at the big picture in the world and add solar panels and satellites inspecting solar panels being connected to this, and other financial instruments without not only company green bonds but other instruments. So we're trying to have a dialogue with the different players here. Property developers, for example, that are in the project, Ekrona, and see they issue a lot of green bonds, for example, and on the other side, Öhmans and SEB, what are their requirements? So it's done led by Stockholm Green Digital Finance. It's non-profit organizations. So they're taking the lead on this. And we are helping with the technological implementation and in general, helping out with ideas in the project.
Something you have been working on with the land registry, selling property using smart contracts.
Yes, and now if you sell a house, there's a lot of manual paperwork being done. So you need to design the purchase agreements, you need to sign a loan with a bank, etc. And no one is aware of exactly at all steps where we are in the process. The seller is unaware that the buyer is now signing something with the bank. Is sort of in the dark, so he doesn't see that. The banks come in late and don't see it until the buyer has applied for loans, etc. The land registry doesn't see anything until you're finished with the whole process, basically, and that can take 3 months. So after everything is done, the land registry gets involved. So what we're doing is basically a digitalization project, getting digital signatures of all the steps. First, capturing the process in a workflow. So these are the steps. So the buyer and the seller needs to sign a purchase contract, and the buyer needs to apply for a mortgage, etc. And getting all that into a process. And the real estate agent is also involved a lot in this and has his obligation to check the parties, etc. So get all that into a digital process and have digital signatures as far as possible to prove who did what, when, etc., and have full transparency into this. So the immediate gain is that we can reduce the time now from 3 months to maybe less than a day if in optimal situation. It could be a good, very good thing for society in aggregate. So it's a lot about.
That's what I'm curious about, how developers might use it. People that are very active in the space, suddenly they have been able to speed up everything.
And with day trading, so you don't buy a hotel, you buy and sell your real estate with the day. Now, probably not, but sort of. It can change. It can change some interesting implications. But it could also, this is of course more interesting for perhaps developing countries that have really bad processes and no trust in the system and very, very slow. Like if it takes 2 years to apply for a loan and get it in your system, that's a big problem because if you can't really start a small business if it takes them 2 years to apply for a mortgage, which will maybe fund your business. Okay, but so now we have 3 months, yeah, but you know, 1 day, that's a lot better, maybe.
And you've had some successful trials.
Yeah, I mean, we started off just sketching how it would look like, then we implemented the technology to prove that sort of the technology works, and now we're looking at the implementation, how can we actually run this, installing nodes in different players and try out a real transaction and how it holds in court, etc. So that's where we are now. So it's going to be a real estate transaction. That's the goal for this project.
You have candidates already that are lined up, ready to try this?
Yeah, we'll see, but we'll try to do to test it out. Yeah.
And we're still transacting in the krona, right?
Yeah. So money transfers is just a signature from the bank that I'm now sending the money. Or someone can countersign I have received it. And if they didn't do that, you have evidence. Or the bank signed that they sent the money, but the receiving bank didn't approve it. So what happened? Sort of. Maybe you can claim that the bank never sent it. It's pretty hard evidence that should be. We have free evidence in Sweden, so it should be an interesting court case. But I think that you can call in some cryptocurrency expert and some cryptography expert and mathematicians and prove your point that this was signed by the bank. So I think that the courts will need to accept that. But I'm not a lawyer, but that's we do have some serious good lawyers in this project that are looking at all those details. Again, I'm not an expert on exactly what's happening in this project, but yes, it could be you know. In Sweden, we don't have that much corruption, but still there's some attempts to commit fraud, etc. And can we improve that? Can we improve the speed of real estate transaction? It can stimulate the economy as a whole.
The government of Andhra Pradesh in India.
The storage of titles that they have, the land authorities in Andhra Pradesh, they basically want a secure system where every change is logged, so trying to remove the risk of corruption because everything is audited in a log. And that blockchain again is of a distributed nature, so it's not just kept in their domain. We could add an auditing company that does auditing in real time, or at least have a copy in case you have a dispute or you start to suspect something, ill behaviors. Could be other public sector players that have copies, or even private sector players. So it makes it much more difficult to just change records freely, because everything is logged. We did signatures, and the whole history cannot be changed. That's the promise of blockchain again, that you cannot just change history without invalidating the whole blockchain. So those kind of changes difficult to wipe under the carpet. So we did this project with KPMG, and I was down presenting it and talking about it, and after that we have Tech Mahindra, big conglomerate. They are big IT consultants. They do tuk-tuks and tractors as well. They do everything, but they want to sell this try to get this moving in other parts of India. So hopefully it could be like a bigger project, and we get their help to roll it out. So that's exciting, I think, to try to look at corruption issues and trying to reduce those.
So Funderbeam's been active for some time now. How has the experience been so far?
Yeah, that solution is based on the color coins and the Bitcoin network, so it's pretty expensive now to do the transactions. That's sort of it's secure. We are confident in that, to have no issues around that, but sort of it's a bit messy, so we might suggest them to move to our new platform in order to bring down the costs a little bit. But otherwise, you know, it works as it should. It's stable, it's secure, it works, provides a benefit. So yeah, I like that.
It just costs too much to run.
Yeah,
Because of the
you know,
transaction. essentially.
It doesn't cost too much, but still, the price of Bitcoin. And there was a Swedish bank that said that was one of the reasons that they rolled out the public blockchain, because they have no control over the costs. It can skyrocket. So if you build a solution, you don't know exactly, because it's not in their control what the costs will be in the future.
Well, you're working with LHV Bank in Estonia.
Yeah, we now have a better, more scalable concept for e-money. Of course, again, you cannot really base that on Bitcoin. We knew that from the start, so that it doesn't scale. So either Bitcoin solves the scalable issues, or we need to do something else. So, but we now have a solution based on Postchain. We're also collaborating with another company from another European country who are very good at integrating blockchain with cards, etc., and devices. So we have an even ATM machines without changing them. So a very smart entry points for actually making an e-money solution, and combining with our technology for transaction, which can scale up to country level. I think we have a interesting proposition. Can also scale between being centralized to being decentralized. So we actually pitched a similar solution to the Swedish Riksbank, the central bank, for the e-krona project that they're starting. So we had an interview in January. So
that's part of my next question, actually, because I was on. I'm at the moment working to try to create a documentary about the eKrona project, and I saw on the website that you had put in a proposal alongside another company.
Yeah, so that's Sofito that we are working with.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah.
So how is let me pull you up on that and tell us a little bit about the process for placing your proposal for the technical solution, and why you think the e-krona idea is important or relevant.
I mean, it's probably the evolution of things as it is. We are going into a cashless society. I don't carry cash at all anymore. That's quite unusual in the world, sort of. And people use Swish all the time, for example. So we're most cashless in the whole world, I think, as far as I've seen. So it's going in that direction. Of course, the central bank wants to make sure that financial stability is being kept. So they're looking at various risks with the banks, or the banks don't see that problem. Of course, they just want the Riksbank to let them, I guess, handle the payments, etc. But they want to see the full picture of what you can do. So they're exploring. They're exploring still, I would say.
Yeah, and you've had an interview with them in January.
Yeah.
And that was then sort of, were you presenting your?
Yeah. So we started off by a lot of companies sending in proposals on 3 pages, I think it was, and then some companies got to this invite. It was like, I think it was a 2-hour interview. I didn't participate myself. Sadly, I was away traveling. But it was a good meeting, I think. So we'll see what happens after that. I guess they will collect all the input from both big companies and startups.
Did you get an idea of where they are in the process at all?
No, I don't have. I'm not sure where they are.
I would imagine.
But all these projects probably take a lot of time. There's a lot to think about.
I think it almost feels like eKrona is their sort of response to what's happening in the space, as in, well, if there's going to be all these currencies out there, then we need to participate and actually join the competition. And if there is going to be Any ways to
maybe if there is much competition. It's not like I mean now, so there's no competition. There's no one using cryptocurrencies in Sweden for that. So Sweden, there's no, to be honest, no competition.
But they must see a threat on the horizon for them to actually publicly announce.
Yeah, it could be cryptocurrencies as a threat, but it could also be that they want to take more control over what the banks are doing for financial stability, etc. Or that they want to see for the society as a whole. There could be sort of added features with the digital receipts, integration with taxes, etc. There could be a lot of efficiencies being made if you design the solution in a good way. It can really sort of improve society. So it could be extremely valuable. Just a small percentage in efficiency, and that level could be a big impact to society. So it's definitely a good thing that they explore what opportunities are out there, I think.
Like we've touched on it appears you've sort of backed away from cold coins down to the cost of transactions, I guess.
Yeah, but it's also, you know, the market interest is more interested in Ethereum, which can do a lot more programming easier than Bitcoin. So it's basically taking that market that otherwise would be probably on Bitcoin. We can do a lot on the Bitcoin programming and doing smart contracts, etc., but not as good as Ethereum. And Ethereum has the momentum there. So that's my commercial view on this. That
Bitcoin could actually evolve to, you know, you've got the Lightning Network, etc., being developed, so it could become competitive once again.
Absolutely. There's a lot of work being done, and a lot of promising technologies, and yeah, you can definitely.
But as I understand it, as with SegWit, it's very difficult to get people to adopt the new. Is the same applied to the Lightning Network? The nodes have to accept it just like they need to accept SegWit.
Yeah.
So that's taking a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a difficulty how conservative you should be with changes and how to govern this. It has been quite difficult for Bitcoin in order to govern with this kind of different opinions about how the system should work. Yeah.
So I guess that's almost an argument against decentralization in a sense.
Possibly, yeah.
And in that regard,
could be difficult to get things done sometimes.
It's definitely slower.
But is that good or bad? It's not like necessarily that the blockchain with the most features will win. So
I'm often seeing very bad reporting of this in this space, with even on these so-called crypto media outlets.
Yeah.
Just the worst types of headlines, so inaccurate.
There's, the classic political science, or what's the power, is that there's formal power and informal power. So we say that the king doesn't have formal power in Sweden, but he does have informal power in terms of a catastrophe. If the king speaks up and say, go with me on something, maybe we'll bring people with him. So he has some kind of power, even though it's not formal. So it's and it's the same thing with cryptocurrencies. You can say we don't have a board, but there are still people that matter more, and definitely strong influencers. So yeah, that's a fact.
What with the futures opening up trading late last year as well.
Yeah.
And some of the speculation that's arrived in the marketplace, and again the media outlets that come along with that.
I mean, there's a lot of newcomers in this space, institutional.
Still not clear
investors.
exactly how many though.
Yeah, but I mean, even in ICOs, there's a lot of professional companies investing into ICOs as well, investment companies. So not only crazy crypto people doing that anymore. So the serious investors that see something, you know. I'm not about to review them on their investment strategy, but yes, you can just observe there are serious investors that are going into this space.
Yeah.
So that's interesting at the same time. That's, you know,
It's,
anything where it writes about in Swedish press is just a catastrophe, everything with blockchains, etc.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, thank you,
Appreciate it.
thank you.